Bob, you made me pretty mad. All right, Bob, stay with me for a second. Hey folks, Mike Seekleiner here, and today I'm going to teach you about utilizing knee strikes as part of your empty-handed self-defense tool skill set. Now, when you're throwing knee strikes, the first question is, why? Why are we throwing knee strikes? In a real fight, if we can maintain perfect striking distance, kicking distance, knocking him away, go to an alternate weapon distance, that's great, but most fights, and if you just Google them, look on YouTube or whatever, most fights, we end up closing the distance pretty quickly. So once I get into this range, I can grapple with the guy. I can throw elbow strikes to the guy. But a lot of times, because his arms and his hands are all up here and we're tied up and we're doing different things, it's very hard for me to pull those off. But what I have is I have two very powerful weapons down here. Of course, my legs and my knees. And my striking surface on the top of my knee is a very viable tool for me to use. Now, we're going to practice throwing some knee strikes, okay? And generally speaking, the principles are as follows. Number one, when I throw knee strikes, I want to maintain that same posture of power that we've taught you in other videos. Meaning, when I throw a knee strike, I never want to be leaning back or standing all the way upright. I want to throw a knee strike from a low, forward and aggressive posture and position so I can drive the knee straight in very aggressively, okay? Where am I striking? Well, of course, the groin is a great target, but most of the time, we're literally driving those knees into the major muscles here, groin, pelvic area, wherever we can hit. If we're on the side of the person, maybe we've got an underhook on the side, we may drive it into I think it's the common peroneal area, that big nerve that runs down the outside of the leg. We may end up throwing some shots that are back near the back, the nerves back here in the buttocks. Wherever we are on the person is going to dictate where we throw those knees. Now, the strike direction is not necessarily going to be up. My knees are going to be thrown into the person. So I'm thinking about kneeing in this direction versus this direction. The second part of the equation is, when I'm throwing knees, what are my hands doing? Well, typically your hands are going to be doing what they're doing, but if you've trained some of the other videos and looked at the pummeling videos and underhook, overhook, stuff like that, more than likely we're going to be in somewhat of a control position. So I'm going to give you a few variations you can work on. I want you to practice all of these. Number one is a simple head wrap. So I'm basically taking my hands, I'm placing it high on the back of his head, I'm pinching my elbows together, which prevents him from taking his whole head and getting out from underneath the technique. And I'm basically to keep my head in his face. I don't want to be here because now I'm set up for a headbutt myself. So I want to basically make him uncomfortable and dictate that pace. And all I'm doing is controlling the head to an extent. This is not the best grip. I'll show you that one next, okay? And from here, I'm going to throw my knees in. Driving knees in, using these big muscles on my lower legs as I'm throwing my strikes, okay? Second position is with your head on the other side of his head. So this is two hands on one side. The second position would be both of my hands on one side of his body. Now this is a really good position to throw knees from because it allows me to keep my vision down around his waistband. And if you can imagine us going at it and me not knowing what his capabilities are, he may have a knife or a gun, or whatever else down there. So a lot of times when I'm throwing my knees, I'm keeping my vision open, down there to see what his hands are doing, okay? And to swim to the other side, I'm simply going to take my arm, swim it through. This is keeping this head away from my head so he can't headbutt me. And I basically control him by grabbing the back of his neck and grabbing his shoulder. Switching to the other side, keeping my vision down there, watching for this hand to make sure I don't get punched in the head, okay? And then last but not least is basically working from what we call a gable grip. And a gable grip is, I believe, a wrestling, it's where the term came from. But a gable grip is where I'm grabbing my own meat of my thumb, either direction, just like this. And what I like to do is, with the arm that is down, so my left arm is underneath, my right arm is on top, I'm going to take my left arm and I'm going to torque his head down. I want to make this as uncomfortable as possible from him. I can throw strikes, while I'm looking down there and seeing what he's got going on. You know, is this hand reaching for a weapon or whatever else? When I switch it up, I'm going to torque. So I'm taking this forearm and I'm torquing it down as much as possible. I want him to carry my weight, torquing that head down so I can throw those knees. And when you throw them, just alternate. Position, legs, keeping your head down and your eyes open, okay? So very, very powerful technique. Very, very good to utilize at close ranges. And it's obviously something you've got to work on. It's, you know, just like anything else, the striking with the hands or the striking with the elbows, you've got to practice your knee strikes. A lot of times when people throw knee strikes, I see them very upright and off balance. So get down low, get tight, keep your upper body positioned and balanced forward. Because if not, if I'm throwing knees like this, and this guy knows anything, or just does what is instinctive, there's a real good chance he's gonna grab that leg, and I'm gonna be on my butt fighting from the ground, and I don't want that to happen, okay? So, knee strikes, very effective tool. Make sure you train them, work them, add them to your cardio routine, because if you can hear me, I'm breathing, my heart rate's up a little bit. It's much, much better source of functional fitness than getting out there on the treadmill. So, get out there, work those knees.